Hello again. Tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about the educational system that our children are a part of. I'm going to make comments based on my personal experience as a teacher in the classroom in four different school districts in two different states. Our children have been robbed. They've been robbed of the opportunity to get a good education in the public school system. I'm not making these comments as a matter of something political. These are just my personal observations, having taught for over 10 years in the public school system, as well as over 30 years of public health, community health education. My purpose for this YouTube channel is to provide these students, these young adults, and soon to be young adults, with the techniques that they need and the skills that they need to be effective in the workplace. Many of our children, many of our young adults, aspiring adults, are going through an educational system that has been broken for a very long time. These young people are not being challenged. They're not being held accountable because the educational system passes them through, whether they pass or not, through grades kindergarten through 8th grade. When they reach high school, many of these students feel that they don't have to do the work because they're going to get passed through, just as they have every year since they started school. Unfortunately, about the time they're in their second semester as a junior or the category junior, or for first semester of senior, in a meeting with their counselors, they discover they're not going to graduate. And they get very upset. Why? Well, you haven't passed your freshman math, your freshman science. You didn't pass your sophomore math, your sophomore English, and on and on. So suddenly, they are numerous credits short of being able to graduate on time with their classmates. Nobody told them that they had to pass, or if they did tell them, it didn't penetrate. They did not understand that they had to pass each class. Many of them end up in summer school, the summer of between their junior and senior year, some the summer between their sophomore and junior year, and often the summer at the end of their senior year, so that they can get a diploma. Others just drop out and they try to take a GED, only to discover that it's not easy and they have to take classes in order to qualify to take their GED. So you might say they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. And it's not really their fault. It's a broken system. So my purpose on this website is to provide these young people with many of the skills that they need to be able to read better and definitely comprehend what they're reading, and to be able to write better, to communicate their thoughts in written format, and to be able to perform the basic adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and decimals and fractions without using a calculator. If they can do these things, then they will be able to progress if they go on to trade school or to community college. And they'll be able to progress if they go straight into the job market. What's happening now is that when they go into the job market, they don't have the discipline, they don't have the job skills, they can't fully understand what they're reading, they don't express themselves well in writing, and they can't do the basic math. So they lose the job or they get frustrated and they quit. Many of them don't even realize that they can't just take a day off and not call the boss and explain that they're ill. They just don't show up. And then they show up 4 or 5 days later only to find out that they've been fired and somebody else has the job now. These young people have been robbed of some of the very basic things that my generation, even my children's generation, and certainly my parents' generation knew, because we had to work. We had to work in school. School was our job, and heaven help us if we screwed up, because if we did, we were held accountable not only by our teachers, but when we went home. If we didn't do our work, if we didn't turn in our homework, and the teacher got in touch with our parents, if we messed around at school and got in trouble and the teacher had to get in touch with our parents, we were grounded. We were restricted. There was definite discipline at home, so that we would learn that we were responsible for doing this work. We were responsible for learning. Most parents didn't expect their children to come home with straight A's. I certainly didn't. I had some learning disabilities that we didn't know were learning disabilities back when I was in school. My family just thought I wasn't the smartest one in the family. I had trouble with math. I had trouble with reading. I couldn't read until somewhere between the 7th and 8th grade, because I processed right to left, bottom to top. And it wasn't until I was holding a book upside down and reading it with no problem at all that I realized I was different. Up until then, I wasn't the student of the family. 6 university degrees later, I have to say, I think I am the student of the family. But we didn't have the advantages of special ed. We didn't understand learning disabilities when I was in school. What we did understand was that if we didn't do those 3 to 4 hours of homework every night that we had, and yes, that's not an exaggeration, I went to school in 7 different states and overseas between the grades of kindergarten and the 12th grade. 7 different school districts plus a European school district. And every one of them required me to have homework that was a minimum of 3 hours a night. It was repetition, repetition, repetition. Learn those multiplication tables. Be able to cite them forward and backward and upside down. It was find the meaning in the paragraph I just read. Explain it. But conjugate the sentences. These kids don't even know what that means. But if we got it wrong, by golly, we did it again and again and again and again until we understood it. And we didn't have all these blasted tests. These kids have about 4 to 6 different assessment tests a year. So the teachers have to teach them to the test to be able to pass the test. I have a grandson, swear to God, this is the honest truth, very smart young man. So disgusted with all of these tests that when he was in school and he went in to take the tests, he faked the answers. He described himself as everything except a young man. He had green hair in one of them. I mean, just, he told me one time, and I was upset because he skewed the results. But he said, "Granny, this is so stupid. I just go through and mark anything just to get it done." Now, what is he learning from that? All 3 of those grandsons, all 3 of them, dropped out of high school their junior year and took their GED and went on to college because they were so bored and disgusted with the educational system. All 3 of them have advanced degrees. All 3 of them do very well. But high school should have been a wonderful time for them. Not something that was so awful that they left early so they could move on with their life. And they are not unusual. I know many students who have done the same thing because most of my teaching has been high school students. So I'm hoping that my site will become known so that young people who are struggling with reading comprehension, with their writing, with their ability to express themselves in written format, and so that their math skills will be improved. And they'll learn job skills along the way. And they'll learn about, alternative and complementary medical practices, what they should listen to, what and what they should debunk, what's kind of quirky. So they learn some basic medical skills themselves, what to look for, when to go to the doctor. I hope to teach them how to be able to shop, make their money stretch further, do good budgeting, things they've never learned in school, and they're suddenly out in the work world and they haven't a clue. And they're struggling when they shouldn't have to struggle. So Tatey teaches about helping these young people and anybody else to be able to move forward in a positive way in their lives. Beginning next week, on Monday, my first series will be on reading. The fundamental information about how to read and how to extract what is important in what they're reading, how to comprehend it and how to reason on it and apply it in their life. How many lessons I will have, I don't know. As I put it together, it may be 10, it may be 20. It's what I feel is needed based on my experiences as a teacher. And I will also be collaborating with other teachers that I know so that I can gain from their experiences and their suggestions as well. Any of you out there who have suggestions, comments, please feel free to share them with me. I'm sure some of you will not be happy with the things that I say. Be respectful when you express that. I only want what is best for your children, for your young adults. And if I offend somebody along the way, it's not intentional. I also hope that you will please like my channel and that you will please subscribe and check back a couple of times a week, because I will be adding information on a regular basis. So with all of that said, we will be moving forward on Monday, beginning the first series on Teddy Teach, which will encompass reading skills. Good night, all.